What's on, guys? J-Hoyd back with you today. Welcome back to Call of Duty Vanguard. We are back here on ranked play playing with Ben, and we got a good gameplay for you in the background. We got some Tuscan hardpoint for you, so this was a pretty good game. Like I said, we were playing with Ben, so it's always good times with him. But unfortunately, got a little bit busy this past week, so I ended up missing a couple of videos that I wanted to make, and the preview for the Pro-Am Classic was one of them. But we do have the recap of the CDL Pro-Am Classic. So if you're not sure what it was, so it takes all 12 pro teams in the CDL, and we had a qualifying event for this. I believe it was in Minnesota, that had the top 4 challengers teams get the top 4 from that get to play in this Pro-Am Classic. So we have 16 teams here, and it felt a little bit like an old school event. So we had group play in this one. So they were all put into different groups. We have 4 groups total. So in the first group, we have Toronto Ultra, Atlanta FaZe, Seattle Surge, and JerkyXP being the challengers team. In Group B, we had OpTic Texas, Florida Mutineers, Minnesota Rocker, and the Toronto Ultra Academy EU. In Group C, we had LA Thieves, New York Subliners, London Royal Ravens, and Team War. Group D, we had the Paris Legion, Boston Breach, LA Guerillas, and the Toronto Ultra Academy NA. And we had, like I said, 16 teams in total. So, on your screen now is going to be the results from group play. So what this was, everyone plays each other one time. That determines where you are in the group. Top 2 from this group move on to the single elimination bracket, which we'll get to later on here. The bottom 2 are out. Now, that's how the bracket works. But let me just say this. This tournament could have been so much better, right? You could have had more challengers teams there, which would have been great, right? You have, even if you add the top 8 teams, have 5 teams per group. Let's just say top 2 make it to brackets, 3rd and 4th make it to the losers bracket somehow, and have a double elimination set up, and then the 5th team is just out, right? I feel like that would have been a little bit better, rather than just have, because a lot of these teams, all of the challengers teams, didn't even make it to bracket play, which is kind of disappointing. There was one team, which we'll get to here in a second, that almost did, but unfortunately lost at the last possible second. But like I said, Group A on your screen now. We have Atlanta FaZe winning this one 3-0. No question about it. They're one of the best teams in the game for a reason. Easily. I don't want to say easily, but they did make it there. Toronto Ultra does get second in this group, which kind of surprising. Only losing to Atlanta. So, okay. Not a bad loss there. I mean, that was their last game, so they did have the other 2 teams first. Then you had JerkyX, who does finish in 3rd in this group, which is, I think that's Silly, Fire, and 2 other guys that I don't remember the name of. I believe that's that team. So they go 1 and 2. Again, only winning versus the Seattle Surge, who end up going 0 and 3 and losing all their matches. Now, I said it before, when we were making the roster change video, does Seattle need a change? I put no, right? This team can compete. They do have the potential to upset, but then also you have results like this sometimes where they only win 3 maps out of the 3 games they played, and they don't look good. But do they need a roster change? I don't think so. But you do, but you don't. It's like one of those really weird situations. So Seattle Surge does come in 4th. So Atlanta and Toronto move on to the bracket. On to Group B, we have Florida Mutineers getting 1st place in this one. They go 3-0. Unfortunately, OpTic Texas going into the Pro-Am Classic here. Like I said, this was going to be a big story that we would have talked about when coming into the preview for this video. But unfortunately, OpTic Texas is playing with a substitute through this entire event, with the exception of the first match where they lost to Florida. So, illey is out with a thumb injury. They took him up as precautionary reasons. So hopefully he's back and he's better than ever once it comes back to Major 3 and the qualifiers for Major 3. But for all but the first match where they played Florida, they were using General as their flex. General's typically a main AR, so a little bit of a clash there. Kind of last second, kind of underprepared a little bit. Don't want to make excuses. Obviously, you need to perform at the highest level, regardless of what your position is. But they getting second place in this group, still really good for them, right? They still beat Toronto, Ultra Academy EU, and they still beat Minnesota. So they beat the two teams that I would expect them to beat, regardless of who their team was. And they lost to the one team that I thought could have beat them anyway. So Florida and OpTic move on to the brackets. Group C, we had the New York Subliners only losing one map to Team War, which was already kind of weird. But New York goes 3-0, 9-1 map count. Actually, I think had the best map count out of all of group play. Goes 3-0. They beat all the other teams, obviously. Really solid performance for them, right? New team for these guys. Kismet in, Neptune out, clayster still on the bench. So now it's Hydra, Kismet, Paul X, and Crim6. So you have a new team in there. Not exactly sure what to expect with them. Obviously Kismet been in and out of the pro scene, at least of the pro league, I should say, for a little bit now. Interesting to see him get back in it and have such good success early on in his most recent debut, if you will. LA Thieves, though, 2-1, solid performance from them. But do they have enough to compete in Major 3? Do they have enough to compete in the qualifiers and continue on? We'll see, right? They kept the same team. They do have a role change with Draza moving to the flex, Kenny to the one of the submachine guns. So will that help them? Will that not? We'll have to wait and see. But they do make it to bracket play along with New York. And then sad times for London. So they end up making a roster change. Gizmo, I believe it was, out of the team due to personal and mental health issues or whatever they cited. But I'll still say this, for personal reasons. So he's out of the team for now. Harry comes in. They go 1-2. Don't really look the best. What team did they beat, actually? So they end up beating Team War, who gets the bottom of the group. So I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, obviously, new team, not much preparation, only a couple days of practice. I don't want to give too many excuses here for them, but going to a team with a new player that you've probably never played with the exception of like one scrim set, it's hard to be on the same page, and it's definitely gonna be hard to compete at the highest level when that happens. So tough to see there, but then Team War, or the Challengers team, does get 4th place. So London and Team War do not advance to bracket play. Group D, although it is Group D, it's the group of death as well. Boston Breach, 2-1. They only lose to Toronto Ultra Academy NA. Paris Legion, they lost to Boston. So both those teams go 2-1. Both those teams make it to bracket play. 3rd place, Toronto Ultra Academy NA get 2-1 as well. But I'm guessing due to tiebreakers, they do not make it. So wait, how do they beat Paris and then don't get in? I don't know how those tiebreakers work. Maybe they had a tiebreaker of someone else. I don't know how to explain it. Somehow, some way, Boston and Paris move on to bracket play. Toronto Ultra Academy NA was the only team that had a kind of a real chance to make it into into the bracket. So really was hoping to see that. Really hoping to see Paris struggle to kind of showcase the talent that's out there. But unfortunately, they don't make it there. And then also something really interesting. We've had 3 different tournaments. We're going to have 3 different, or we had 3 different winners so far. Going into the 4th one, our most recent major winner, the LA Guerrillas, 0-3. 4-9 map count, lose all of their games. They get 3-0'd once by Boston, and then they lose game 5s to Paris and Toronto Ultra Academy, NA. So interesting. So all right, we move on to bracket play, right? What's gonna happen in bracket play that's gonna make it interesting, right? So we said, who was it? Paris and Boston move on. So looking at the bracket, this is how it goes. Of course, we get OpTic versus FaZe round 1 in the quarterfinals. We have Boston and LA Thieves in the second matchup. Florida and Toronto in the third matchup, and then New York versus Paris in the fourth. So it's unfortunate that we get OpTic versus FaZe with a substitute. Well, I should say OpTic with a substitute versus FaZe. We don't get the full caliber of both these teams. But like it's been the entire year so far, OpTic walk away with the victory. In the game 5, I think it was round 10 in the search, OpTic win this series 3-2 with General filling in as a substitute. Now, it's hard to say, you know, teams should perform the same, even having a substitute, but to have a player that's not even the same role fill in for a player that, you know, those roles don't match up, and obviously, you know, they don't scrim a lot with their or they don't scrim at all with their substitute, right? Their substitute has their own team that they're playing with, so it's hard, but they made it work, right? General didn't have the greatest performance, you know, personally, but still, he filled in where he needed to. He's not going to be that player that gets a lot of kills. He's trying to be that consistent guy that rotates, that fills the lanes, that is a team player, and he ends up doing a pretty damn good job to move them on to the semifinals to await our winner of Boston versus LA Thieves. LA Thieves show that they can be a top team. They beat Boston 3-1. They move on to face off against OpTic in the semifinals. We have Florida. We have Toronto. Toronto has been struggling a lot, but it's good to see them come out in the, you know, make it through groups, make it into bracket play, and then they beat Florida, who beat OpTic in their first match. So that's good to see from Toronto. Maybe they're getting it back together. So Toronto moves on to the second round. Then we have New York versus Paris. Paris, we all know, is not a very good team. New York, honeymoon stage, new roster, new player in there, still trying to figure out, you know, all the pieces that you know, need to make their team work, and they're still figuring it out. But they do beat Paris. They do move on to the semifinals. So those teams do place top 8. As for our semifinals, OpTic Texas, LA Thieves. This one, unfortunately, was not as good as we were hoping. LA Thieves come away with the 3-1 victory, moving them on to the grand finals. Because like I said, and maybe you don't remember, this is just single elimination. One matchup at the end decides the winner. No losers bracket, no elimination bracket, no lower bracket, whatever you want to call it. None of that second chance to make it, unfortunately. So then we have, like I said, OpTic out at top 4. Second matchup of semifinals, we have Toronto versus New York. Again, two teams that have been struggling. On this one, New York wins it. They come back, they win this one 3-1, and they advance to the grand final. So for the 4th time this year in the 4th different tournament, we're going to have a 4th different winner, which is going to be the New York Subliners. Although, yes, it's the hometown team, obviously it's not the team necessarily that we support. The New York Subliners walk away with the game 4 victory versus the LA Thieves, crowning themselves the Pro-Am Classic winners. So congrats to them. You know, it's, again, I don't want to say it's not a real tournament, because obviously it is a real tournament. It was on land. You can't dispute that. But again, there's not a lower bracket. There's, you know, it's hard to be a real bracket when it's kind of not a real tournament, but like it is, but it's not. Like, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. New York walk away with the $100,000 for winning the whole thing. LA Thieves get second with $50,000. Texas, or I should say OpTic Texas and Toronto Ultra get third, fourth with $25,000. And then 5th through 8th, you get Atlanta FaZe, Boston Breach, Florida Mutineers, and Paris Legion. All, like I said, all with $12,500 each for each one of those teams. In 9th through 12th, we have Team Strike X, the London Royal Ravens, Minnesota Rocker, the Toronto Ultra Academy NA, all get $0, so just top 8 are in the money. And then 13th through 16th. In 13th through 16th place, you have Seattle Surge, Toronto Ultra Academy EU, Team War, and the LA Guerrillas get dead last place. No money for them either. So, Again, you have some of these pro teams that struggle this event. You had some shining lights with some of the challengers players, and it looked good, right? It definitely shows the league that they need expansion, that there is talent out there, and that they need to get to at least 16 teams. But good result there. The final results we just went through, but I hope you guys did enjoy. We're very much excited to go to Major 3 in the qualifiers for Major 3. So of course we'll have a hopefully we'll have a new power rankings video for Major 3 post the kickoff classic, and hopefully we'll have some interesting conversations about it. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button down below if you haven't yet, or if you're brand new here, make sure to subscribe, turn those post notifications on so you never miss an upload, and don't forget, you can always change your mind later. With all that being said, guys, we'll see you in the next one.